can't say this about season 4. It is going to be so worth the wait.
Nowhere, actually.
A wrecking machine. I'll take it.
I'm still figuring out my own style, Mark, actually.
It was great.
It took 2 minutes and I had to answer, yeah, go for it.
Are you sure you're not interested? I was like, don't ask me again. I can't refuse that twice.
In Holland, in one country.
She got me so deep and underwater and I drank it. That's not good.
You'll try chocolate from South Africa to Australia to England. It will taste so different.
So it's been really amazing that it's been with you after 10 long years.
The first title we were messing around with, we were going to call it Lockdown. And then after a while, we actually kind of realised, God, this is dragging on a lot longer than what we thought it was going to be.
I didn't want to give people a reminder.
Our bass player has a band. We were like, let's go on the road, man. But and then it just came to a screeching halt.
We had to work on like how I was biting the carrot. Like I had to do it very purposefully, you know? You didn't want a weak bite, but you didn't want a bite that was too strong.
Someone jumps the stage and one of our techs just body slams him to the ground and you can see me kick him.
I guess I was too distracted. I was having too much fun. Never a bad thing.
Hello, everybody.
Hi, Jota. Hello.
Hello, Mark.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. I'm Mark Sugiyama from Eclectic Arts, based here in Seattle, Washington. And thank you so much for joining me on this Tuesday, May 4th, 2021. May the 4th be with you for all you Star Wars fans out there. And a few housekeeping things before we get to my interview this morning. I have quite a few things coming up this week in terms of live streams and actually in terms of things outside of live streams. If you follow me as Eclectic Arts Media, one word, on Instagram, that's where I post everything first. And then some of that information migrates over to other platforms like Facebook, but there's definitely things that I keep exclusive to Instagram. So that's the best place to follow me on for, again, updates, clips, announcements, everything else. And I do have interviews scheduled for tomorrow, Wednesday. There's at least 2, possibly 3 now on Thursday. I've got one on Saturday. I've got the Milwaukee Film Festival starting on Thursday. There was a showcase that I just got signed up for a band. So yeah, there's a lot of things coming up, but if you want the details, again, that's where to follow me. If you're watching this on YouTube right now or down the line in the future, so you could subscribe to my channel and also like this video, that's greatly appreciated. If you want to know what's coming up, then you can hit the notification bell, but just be aware that it's going to send emails to your inbox about what I'm doing live and what's coming up. But if you just want to subscribe, that always helps me. And if you're on the Twitch side of things, if you could follow me over there, that's also greatly appreciated. And yeah, that's where things are at on this Tuesday here in Seattle, sunny Seattle right now. My guest today is a talented music artist, classically trained. She just released her new single, Would You Like Some Tea? Please welcome to the Eclectic Arts Virtual Studio, Chickpee.
Hi, hello everyone.
Hi, how are you?
Very good, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for joining me this morning or this afternoon for where you're at.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. And so just kind of help me out. You're in Nashville, is that right?
No, I'm currently in Philadelphia. We just moved here a couple months ago. Yeah.
Oh, okay. And so how's Philadelphia for you?
Definitely, I gotta be honest, definitely better than Nashville. Like I'm enjoying it a little bit better. Like going from North Italy to that area of the United States, Nashville was a little too jarring for me. Um, I couldn't really fit myself really into. Um, so Ron Gallo, my husband, he's originally from Philadelphia, so we had the chance to spend a little bit of time here. And at some point, just naturally, I pop up the question, shall we move to Philly? Isn't it probably better? And that's what's up.
Okay. Well, that's great since he's from there, and it sounds like it's a better fit for you. So,
Yeah, definitely. There's like melting pot. There's like a lot of different people, different mentality, more acceptance. It's like the that area of the United States. It was to me it was too much closed off, too much guns, too much like all those things that to me are like so far as a concept.
okay, well, yeah, and I've never been to that area myself of the United States, but I have ideas of what it's like down that way.
Also,
So,
if you don't really love like country music or not that you don't love, but it's just like that's not what you're doing. Nashville is particularly in that direction. So, you ended up being like, oh, I don't really fit here. I miss my backyard though, but that's all. And my friends there. But
sure, yeah, I'm sure it has its pluses and minuses. But yeah, you're right. That's going to be a hub for everything related to country and the other subgenres of it for sure.
yeah. Yeah.
Okay, and so I got a chance to come across you through a press release. So I'm a new fan, and when I listened to your music, I was really intrigued by it because it's not just like independent music or pop music. There's a lot of different genres going on with it. And then when I read your background about playing cello and being classically trained, and so I was really curious about that. So let's kind of start with the present, and we'll kind of work our way back, and then we'll kind of come back to the present again. So with would you like some tea? What's the story behind the title and the lyrics?
So basically, I don't know what you picked up from the lyric, but basically, I brought that song. I was back in Italy. Me and Ron, we were separate because of immigration issue. I wasn't allowed to come back over here, so we had to be separate. And I was dealing with a little bit of like traumatic past issue, and I'm pretty much sure that everybody does have those kinds of things. So what happened? I tried to write a song. Imagine me living in a house, waking up and try to go home with my day, and having my past talk to me and being really annoying to me, and maybe also a little bit of my future trying to be annoying as well. And the past is asking me constantly question, hey, it's me, would you like some tea? Breakfast for three, she, you, and me, and all those kind of things. And for me, that was a way to kind of exercise a little bit, like um well, more an escapism and trying to like escape those like thoughts that I was having in regarding past relationship or like past issue that you have when you really open up to somebody, and then you're afraid that something might happen and might hurt you, no? And that was my way to write. I wanted to write a really ironic song. I wanted to be like kind of silly, a little funky. So I was trying to put something really deep into the lyric, even if it sounds, a little childish and silly. But in reality, it's just like everybody live their life with like a load on their shoulder. It comes from the past, and maybe too much projecting into the future. But the reality, you're just trying to sip your cup of tea. You don't want your past to be like, hey, it's me. I'm gonna bother you forever. So that's a lyric.
Okay, what I love the intention behind that because that sounds like I was just talking to a guest yesterday about how, yeah, if it's your past or your future, but it could also be like, let's say, if you're someone that struggled with depression or anxiety or something like that, that sometimes this thing just you carry it with you, and so like it tries to rear its ugly head and say, "Hi, remember me?" And you're like, "No, go
Yeah,
away."
yeah,
It's like,
that's exactly what it is. I do have anxiety actually. Never suffered from anxiety before. As soon as I moved to the States, it happened. Like
mm,
it just something click on me. It's a really different way of living over here.
mhm.
Um, um, you have to always keep up with something. You have to always become something. You can really like. There's never a time that you can just sit down on yourself and be like, oh, I'm really happy with what I have in my life. I don't have to become better and more to realize or to be like a in a social status or something. Like in Italy, we don't really care about this. In Italy, we really care about having a great life, being loved, loving, and just be remember as a good people, not like for what do you have and the social status that you reach.
Sounds like Italy's doing it right.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, I remember when we were there, Ronnie was struggling a lot because he's a really like, he needs to be focusing a lot, like, and he needs to be over here to be able to focus. And for him, it was a really exercise, because a really huge exercise, because we were there, he was recording his record over there with me. And I remember my mom coming over and say to Ron, you've got to chill. Everything is fine. Just like, go do something else. Like, your music is fine. And he was like, no, I gotta go back. I gotta do. That's the pressure that I am absorbing from here. And that's why I started to struggle with this like crazy anxiety. Like, um, even like have the tendency to always be better and reach new levels of something. Never enough, never enough. That's something that I'm experiencing.
That's interesting hearing that, and it's overall, just in my own personal opinion, that's really unfortunate too. That we here in America are constantly looking at social status. We're constantly looking about how do you, improve and get better, and that can be good because it can help you, reach other goals. But there's got to be a limit to it, and there never seems to be. It's just kind of keep
Like
go. Yeah.
It's like a balance it out. Like at some point you're like good. You can be like, oh well, I made a really good, like, that's my goal. That's awesome. Let's enjoy this and not be like, I gotta get going. Like, where are you going?
This hits home really bad for me right now this week because I keep saying that I can't keep taking on more things this week. And then I just said yes to something else. And I just said yes to something else. And it's kind of like, well, there's an opportunity there. So I may not be there next time. So I should say yes. And I'll just kind of rest later. But then sometimes later doesn't come. And you're right. I've talked about this with many of my guests about the work-life balance has to be there. You can't just do all of one or the other. There's got to figure out how things are going to be balanced out, and also what's important to you. And I think, unfortunately, during this time for the last year and some change during the pandemic, people have kind of found out what is important to you because things ripped away from them. And even like what you just mentioned, like with your husband when he was recording in Italy, that I'm just thinking that for him, probably over here, when all this stuff shut down, that must have been really hard because he's like hustling, and then like, oh, nothing.
Yeah, well, actually, it wasn't really like we weren't like used to just be home like for more than like a month straight. And so for us, it's like it was at first, it was actually really nice because you can like chill for a little bit. But then right now, we're like, oh my God, we wish we can do everything like normal, and we're doing good because we got vaccine. We're on our way to start to living a little bit more. We have an upcoming quote unquote tour. I'm saying quote unquote because based on the circumstances, it's not going to be like a regular gig, like a regular show as you remembered, but it's something. It's something that give us a little bit of hope and like a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel. Something.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, with pretty much every guest that I've interviewed over the last maybe 2 months, they were kind of all talking about the same thing. Like there's a lot of question marks still, but at least we feel like there's some level of hope there that we didn't feel like in the fall or definitely last summer or spring.
Not. Yeah, no, definitely not. Actually, like last summer, my country was doing really good, and I wasn't allowed to. I'm still not allowed to leave the United States because I have to wait until my immigration process is done.
Mm-hmm.
And that was really unfortunate because we were like stuck here, and over there everything seems like being pretty good, and it was such a like a painful thing. I'm it's this has been the longest time that I didn't see my parents or like coming back home. It's like crazy. It's 1 year and a half, and I'm like, I need something. Like I need a little bit, like a sparkle at the end of this tunnel. And those shows and like upcoming shows eventually, That's a good, you know, a little something, a little sparkle.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, gosh, that's got to be. It's one thing like for a lot of the folks here in America where we weren't supposed to go anywhere, but like in your case where you can't go.
No, I'm literally kidnapped right now. Well, because unfortunately, before you're not allowed to come in, but once you're allowed to come in, you're not allowed to leave it until you're done with all your like all your process,
Mhm.
and it get delayed, it obviously by this whole thing and by the previous government, obviously. So I'm like, I have a stamp in my head that say bad, even if I'm not. So.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So you've had a whole other aspect of this to deal with.
Yeah, they kind of cross path because we got married January 27, 2020, and a month after everything started to like shift, and we didn't even have time to do anything. No, we didn't even go to a honeymoon or something. Like everything was like, oh, you guys are done. And yeah, but at least it gave us like the positive is that we were able to making more music, practice, get really tight with the practicing together, and also like experiencing like a regular life, because we were always like on tour, and like it for a couple it's like a challenge or sometimes.
That's true. I mean, and I'm glad that there have been some silver linings during this time. I've mentioned it several times to people that watch these that I wouldn't be doing this had the pandemic not happened, because I wasn't doing it prior.
I see.
I know there was always like opportunities to do like music interviews, like usually via Skype. I would get press releases and things like that. And I was like, well, why would I do that when I can just do it in person when they come here to Seattle?
Yeah.
And then, well, fortunately, in my case, there was a band from Los Angeles that decided to go on a virtual tour last May, and they invited me to open their shows. So I was like a fish out of water. Like, how does this work? What do I do? I don't understand. You're in LA. I'm in Seattle. I couldn't figure this stuff out.
How are we doing this?
Yeah, and luckily through their brain power and technology, they walked me through it, and we ended up doing several shows, and I started to really enjoy it. And then I got to talk to people like yourself that are literally in other parts of the country, let alone the world. And now I think once we start getting to a point where if it's the fall or next year where things are really like what we're used to in terms of live events, I think you're going to see a hybrid in terms of for me. Let's say you're going to go out on tour and you're going to be eventually making your way to the West Coast. We can do something like this and help promote it. And you don't have to actually physically be here. We don't have to do a phone one. And then when you're actually here, we might be able to do like a small one in person or something. So there's these options now.
Yeah.
So for me, that's been my, one of my small silver linings, during this time.
Even like learning how to work remotely in terms of making music for us was a big thing, because for example, Ron was supposed to finish his record like around the week when the whole country shut down over here. And it was kind of ironic because we were like, well, let's go to the producer in Atlanta. We were supposed to go to a producer, Ben Allen, in Atlanta. And then the day when, when like the whole thing happened. And so we decided, like, let's just be safe. Let's just work remotely. And then it was a big realization for us, because it showed us the opportunity to just be like, oh, I'm home, I'm recording, you are home, you're doing what you have to do, you just send it to me over. And that's like that you can do that, like it's actually good. It's actually good and it's fun. You're like in the comfort of your own studio, and if you get the right people, it's really easy to do.
Yeah, no, it's a very good point. There's been very many musicians that have talked to me about their particular releases and how they're sending files back and forth to each other, to producers, and just trying to figure out, even like when they start working on music videos, how we're going to do this safely.
Same.
Yep.
We did like a bunch of music video. We have like a green screen. Maybe you can see a little bit back there. We have everything we need in the house, and we kind of like try to do everything by ourselves. So like Ron has a really good eye for visual. I take really good pictures, so we can like mix it up, multiple ways of making art, and just be like, okay, if this is what we're going through, has a world situation, let's make the best of it, even in the hard production. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I
I
remember.
hope my English is fine. You can understand it.
Oh yeah, no, it's great. I can totally understand it. I've had the pleasure of speaking to many international guests, And that's usually their concern, which I understand about, how's my English? Am I saying the right things? How's it? No,
Yeah.
yeah, not an issue whatsoever.
Thank you. Before the interview, I was like, Ron, what if I'm not able to talk? Like, he's like, no, you're gonna be fine.
Yeah, no, yeah, he's right. You're fine, absolutely. And I remember saying to somebody like around maybe last April about, and thankfully I didn't jinx it, but I was like, what happens if the internet goes out? Because everyone was working remotely, everyone's trying to do things. I'm like,
that will be an incredible issue. Like, that will be like, what are we gonna do? Like, okay.
yeah, then you're back to like playing cards and whatever else you can do without the internet. But yeah, hopefully again, I didn't, knock on wood, I didn't jinx myself or that process. But so one thing I also like, and I showed a little clip from the video for Two Trees.
Yeah.
Can you also speak about that song and also that making that music video, because you're out in the snow and everything?
Yeah, that was cold. So the song is about my parents' relationship, which for me is like a role model. They've been together since my mom was 16 and my dad 18. So that's a long time. And now they're like, like they're in their 60s, obviously. And I wanted to just try to write a song that was basically a gift for them, because I would not be this person the way that I am without them, without their examples and the way that they raised me. The fact that they're always been super supportive with everything that I decide to do, never concerned about like be something, but always just be like, be happy, like do whatever that makes you feel happy. We're never gonna judge you. You do whatever you got to do. And the biggest things is that, like I said in my lyrics, I will never imagine to be what I am. And what I am, it's literally only because of them, because they gave me everything that a human being can possibly give it to me. My dad worked so much to be wealthy as much as possible to give me good conservatory teachers and amazing cellos and master class and everything that I want, every instrument. I remember I was like, Dad, I kind of want to try to play also this. Sure, okay. Like, because they were so happy to see me like thrive in whatever I was doing, that for them that was the best. Like, they were like, no, we don't need to buy another house or something. Like, who cares? We just want to give it everything to you and my brother, of course. But um I'm speaking in particular about how much support I have from them, because that's not common. Like, sometimes, when your kid wants to be an artist in general, there is a little resistance, like, what are you going to do? How are you going to survive? And they were like, sure, we're going to make sure that you're going to be fine. And I remember, like, my dad, like, he never missed a day job, like, never miss a day at work, but always make time for me. He was going to work at 7:30 and coming back home at 5:30, and Saturday was off because he wanted to spend time with us. And my mom, she was working in a theater. She was That's, I don't know how to sing it. How do you call the people who make like the scenography in the theater for the opera or for the
Oh, okay. So she was making what, like the scenery and things?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
that's what she was doing in the theater, because she went to the art school, like the academy, the art academy.
Mhm.
And at some point she's like, well, I can't do that anymore because I have to invest all my energy to be 100% there when Kara needs to go play somewhere, or she needs to go to a masterclass 3 months somewhere. And it was a full devotion from my parents. And that's why I have a full devotion for them. Like, right now, I wish I can bring them over here and, like, you know, I sometimes, that's what I talk about in the song as well, that for me that's a gift, because I don't really know right now. I'm like, my hands are tied. There's nothing that I can do. I can go there and like be more physically present. So I'm trying to give them something via my art, because that's what they allowed me to do with all their sacrifice. So
Okay, well, that's really beautiful. Yeah, that your parents have supported you in such a non-judgmental way.
Yeah. But even like when I decided to move here, I remember what they like, in January before we left, they were all crying, but they were like, just be happy, just go. We're gonna be fine. I was like, what if you guys need me? I'm on the other side of the planet. They're like, you're gonna be fine. So that's awesome. Like, it makes me that I want to cry if I think about it because they're like amazing.
It sure sounds like it, and you're right. That is and probably particularly over here that it's kind of a rarity to find because there usually is something where the practicality comes into, if your son or daughter or your child wants to become an artist, then it's kind of like, well, how are you going to make a living from that? Because it's really difficult to do that. And there's some truth to that, but there's also going to be, well, is this really going to make them happy? Or are you going to have to do something else that's like, well, they're not really happy, but they're surviving. So
Yeah, that's a point. Did you really want to spend your life to be something just because it's gonna make you like okay economically, financially, or you just want to like invest your energy, your talent in something, and eventually, yeah, you might have to like it's gonna be more difficult, but at the end of your life, and you're gonna be like, I don't know, 100. I hope so. You're gonna be like, oh, I did everything that I could possibly do, and I did it because whoever support me and push me in that direction. That's
hmm
that's good for me. Like that's what I don't know if I'm ever gonna be a mom, but in case that would be my.
that's going to be your viewpoint on how you would raise your own child. Okay.
I'm doing it with my pet. That's what I do with my pet. I'm just kidding.
Uh, oh, I'm also curious. So, have your parents heard the song, and what do they think of it then?
Oh, they cried. No, they loved it. They loved it. They were really surprised because, for example, I never played slide guitar before, but
Mm.
that day I was like, that night actually, I was like, well, I'm gonna try to play slide guitar. So I was right there and tried. Ron got me a beautiful harmony because that was my dream guitar, and I was like, well, that sounds perfect. I'm gonna try, and it turns out really pretty. And my dad was like, well, that sounds really good. You're turning good. They were like, they were really meticulous. They listened to everything. They give me a lot of like detail, um, yeah, like that. The bass here, you might turn a little up. The harmonies are awesome, but they're always like, they're always trying to push me to do like the best that I can. I like
Uh,
it.
okay. Well, yeah, that's cool, especially when it's going to be just small constructive things.
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly what they do. Yeah.
Yeah, my mom watches all of these interviews that I do. She might be
Ah.
even watching this one. If there's any kind of thing that she notices about me or some sort of tick that I have or something, she'll kind of
She will
mention it
tell
to me.
you. Yeah.
Yeah, and I want to hear that because I want to make it better.
Exactly. Yeah.
And to an extent, like we were talking earlier, I don't want to get like
No,
be
no, no,
upset.
not that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't want to be obsessed with it, but I do want to know things. It's like, yeah, if something's really, wrong with whatever I'm doing, I do want to try to fix it.
Exactly. Oh, and you asked me about the video. We
hmm
did the video in the Amish land here around Lancaster, here
Oh,
in
uh-huh.
Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
It was crazy because it looks like the time stopped. You see them like pass, and you're like, oh my god, they're like, it's so particular, and I never saw them before, and it was really magical because it was snowing. It was terrible cold. So we found that little like the little area when there's nobody, and we decided like to keep using the same kind of like visual effect of the previous one, the one that we did in Italy, 25 video. I don't know if you saw it.
hmm
And so we're trying to do pretty much all the video with that kind of vibe because at the end I want to try to put them all together and make like kind of a short film or something. Because the record has a story behind, so it's like a concept record basically. So at the end, when all the video are gonna be out and you're gonna listen to the whole record, it will actually make sense. It's like a story.
Okay, cool. I love that. Again, I love that kind of thing when there's intention behind like there's a bigger picture that's going to be coming with your album and everything, and that's kind of a great time to talk about it. So your debut album, Imported, is coming out eventually sometime this year. Is that still the timeline?
Yeah, we're trying to make that happen around like the fall. The fall will be the best because we're trying to like to book a tour for the fall, so that would be perfect because it would be like um announcing the record and also have a tour. So we'll see because Ron is the person who's trying to like protect me from the the music industry bad side or like downside. So he's like, well, I want to make sure that you don't suffer too much through all those processes. So let's just also he really wants this record to be something that um not that like we're not we don't really care about like having a label or something like that. We just want to make the things right. So when this is out, it's actually like going to talk to people because I'm talking about my immigration process and all the issues behind that, and I'm talking about like existential crisis and stuff like that. We want the people to listen to that as much as possible.
Okay. Well, and I've had a chance to talk to a lot of independent artists, and one of the things that's nice about it, just like what you just said, is that you can really do things to the way you want them done. You can take a longer period of time. You can put out a video here. You can kind of decide this is what's important to me about this release. So this is how I want to approach it. You don't have somebody trying to tell you, no, you need to do it this way or you need to do it that way.
Yeah.
And since you have such personal things going on the record, what you just talked about topic wise, then yeah, that makes much more sense that you can kind of make sure that it's coming out to the vision that you have for it.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. It's gonna take. I think it's gonna take like a lot of effort and a lot of like we got to put a lot of thoughts into to actually figure out how to make the best of it. But there is a lot of love and sacrifice behind this record, like mentally and emotionally, physically, like technically. It was really fun to do that. It was really easy. I did pretty much everything at home myself. Ron play bass in a couple songs because we recorded live, and then we have our drummer Don Billet. They recorded drums and a little bit of production and engineering, and that was awesome because when you make a record with your friends, you're like, I was with my husband and with one of my best friends in the States, so that was really like a vacation.
Well, yeah, that's good because I have a feeling then that the vibe of that will translate into the songs in terms of how they come across to the listener then. And I'm also kind of curious about uh, we're kind of jumping back again, but with when you started off with cello and were going, like you said, conservatories and master classes and all these kind of things. Can you speak to that period of time? Then also, when did you start kind of moving from that to like writing your own songs and doing things like what you're doing now? What was that transition timeline?
So I started to play when I was 10, so I was really young, and I started to have concert when I was around 13 to 14, which is still really really young. And so from that age until my 20s, 20 something, I was doing like a lot, like very very a lot. Because if you want to like be in a certain level to be a musician, a classical musician especially, it's it's a huge sacrifice of time. Like I didn't have like a regular like I never been a regular teenager because I have to put so much effort and study 8 hours a day and like go to the conservatory every day and practice with orchestra and mm, like auditions and like all those kind of things that they're like really far from a regular teenager world. And at some point, like when I was playing with the pianist and I had my string quartet, that was becoming like I was becoming like starting to be like feeling something like in the back of my head that was telling me you have to find something else that will make this lighter. Not that it's gonna be your prior things, but do something else also with music so you can balance it out. And I always listen to my inner, like, deep thoughts that I have in the back of my head. So I follow those instructions, quote unquote. And so I remember that one day I went to one of my, well, he's one of the best cellists in the world, and that was my teacher. I went to one of his lessons, and he flipped so much on me because that day I wasn't really like particularly on the spot, which I'll tell you with I'm really honest. Everything was good. He's just really overly meticulous. No, everything was fine. And he flipped and he was like, "Do you really want to be your cellist?" I'm like, "Yeah, I do, but I also want to breathe." Everything is fine. So that day was actually the turning point for me because I went home and I remember that I put my parents to sit down. I was like, "Guys, I want to be a cellist, but I'm gonna buy a guitar just so I can, just sit down and just do something light by myself." And they were like, "Sure, let's go buy a guitar." And that was the moment, the transition, because then I started to play guitar, buy a bass, get the keyboard, and I was like, "Oh, that's fun." And in the meantime, why maybe during the day I was doing my classical thing, when I wasn't having show during the night, I was sitting down trying to figure sound and stuff like that. And then I decided to move here. And then for me, well, the first time that I come over here, it was in 2018 actually. So it's been a while already. And that year I actually decided, well, maybe, I can start to put a little bit more effort into writing song and this world, because Ron really suggests me. He was like, "You're so good. Why don't you try to do that?" And I was like, "Because I'm a classical musician. What am I gonna do? That's not." He was like, "No, it's gonna be good if you try." And I trusted him, and I wrote 25, and that was my first song that I ever wrote, and I ever wrote in English. So
Wow, it's interesting because as you're sharing that with me, I'm picturing your classical life and as it became further and further along, and as you talked about the sacrifices you had to make and all the studying and all the practicing and all the things that you had to go to, that it got to a point where there was something else that needed to help kind of like almost like burst that bubble a little bit to give you some levity, if you want to call it, like
yeah,
musical levity, basically.
perfect, absolutely. Not because I'm really respectful of the classical world, and actually I had the tendency to be really purist. Like I'm really. I used to play with a like baroque, like baroque music was what my special things. Like I love to do that. Now I was really purist even in that, and so I had the tendency of be really meticulous when it comes to music, and I want to do and I respect all that world. But because I respect it so much, is that when I'm not fully ready and I need to like keep my head somewhere else for a little bit and coming back to that and play at my best. That was that was the only real reason why I wanted to try to do something else. To be like, let me just lighten up for a second, and then I can coming back and be really there with what I'm doing. I'm still doing that. Like when I play cello here, maybe before I don't know, maybe before I listen to the 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 one of the Doors record or something like that, and then I go up and I'm like all energy. It's like, put it out everywhere, and then I can pick my cello and just be like, all right. Because otherwise, you just have this all energy and you put it into the instruments. Like when you play cello, you're actually hugging the instrument, and there's like a lot of like motion, small motion that you're doing when you're with your right hand, the one with the bow, and your left hand, of course. And if you're tense or you're not leaving other energy and thoughts and tension away, it's not gonna sound good. Like you can be the best, you're gonna hear it that there's something like tight. It needs to be like a human voice, an instrument like that.
Isn't it interesting that trying to play not just music, but there's lots of different disciplines and things that people need to figure out how to be relaxed to actually approach it correctly. And I'm thinking even like if you're going to be someone that rides, like if you're a cowboy and you ride a bucking horse, you can't have negative thoughts in your head. You have to get on there because, you know, once they open that gate, if you're not thinking positively about what you're going to do and how many seconds you're going to stay on that horse, you're going to be in the dirt real quick. And it's so like you could go from that world to the art world to sports to all kinds of other things that you have to figure out how to kind of clear your head so that you can completely focus all your energy into that. And that's when the best things happen.
That's exactly. Yeah. But I used to have like different way, you know, to like I used to fencing when I was like young, and that was a good thing for me. There's a lot of like rhythms and finesse in the fencing movements, and it can be like really you can kind of like put it in the same box of like the rhythm of the music and all the way that you speak, all those kind of things. But I needed to be, or I paint. That's something else that I do when I'm really like, oh my god, I can't do anything right today. I paint something, and all of a sudden, all my thoughts are into that paint, so I can move on and go back to what I have to do. Because if I'm not free, I'm not gonna play well. Like nothing, not even the bass. Like today we practice now for run shows. Tomorrow, actually, we have the first show, and during one song, I was thinking about something else, and I was like, guys, 1 second. All right, because otherwise like it's not gonna sound nice, and I don't want that. I want like I like when music is nice.
Yeah, I totally know what you're talking about. You know, being a musician myself, that there's you just kind of know when you're in the wrong spot or the wrong headspace. You automatically know it's like, oh, it's one of those days. And and sometimes you have the luxury of like maybe it's not a show day, so it's okay. But sometimes it is a show day. It's like, well, I got to figure something out. I got to go outside and clear my head for a bit, or I got to do something else just to help clear my head, so then I can come back to it. One of the things, this was a long time ago, I used to work as an audio engineer for a computer company. And so we'd have deadlines. So I had to get creative by, midnight. I'd have to have something done with this music. And initially it was the hardest thing in the world for me to force myself to be creative. But then I kind of found ways to cope with it. So I literally would walk outside and get some fresh air for a bit and clear my head. Or I'd start listening to some other kind of music just to kind of take a break from something that I was working on. Then come back to it. It's like, okay, I kind of feel renewed. I kind of feel more focused. And now we can do this. So that was really a wonderful learning period for me. I just didn't know it at the time. I thought I hated it at the time. But
oh no, I'm one of those people that if I'm forced to finish it can be a song or it can be a paint. It's not gonna go well. I'm not like like forcing type of like artist. Like I have to wait. The inspiration needs to come to me, and then I can like put that whole thing. Because most of the time, when I get inspired from something, I start a song in like 2 or 3 hours. The song is done. Like I don't like to drag the process or like. So if I'm like, oh, you have to write a song for tomorrow, it's not gonna work. I'm like, it's really not gonna work out. I don't know. And luckily, I never had to do that. I wish. I mean, I wish actually will happen because that will be a learning thing for me. But I got lucky, and every time Ron was like, "Why don't you finish the song today?" Didn't get the right click today. I'm gonna do when I arrive. And for example, the record, I finished it in a week because I was like all those ideas and imagine and like everything just like a waterfall on me, like under a shower. I was like, that's the good spot. I'm gonna do that right now. But yeah, that's how it works for me.
well, that's awesome. That and yeah, again, I totally relate to what you're talking about. If I had my druthers, I'd much rather work when I'm inspired than have to do it with deadlines. I'm somewhere in between now. I think I'm. But yeah, if someone says, "Do you want to have a deadline or not?" I'd rather not have one. And see, we have a comment. I live that art background. I live that art background, or I like that art background. But yeah, that's that's kind of the struggle I think for every artist. It's like if you're trying to make it as your profession for a living, then it's like, well, I'm only going to do this when I'm inspired. Well, sometimes, unfortunately, that's not the case, and then you have to figure out a way around it. But yeah, if you're lucky enough where you don't have to be forced to.
I got lucky, but it might happen. Sometimes Ron is like, well, just fake in your mind that you have a deadline so you can start to practice because it might happen at some point. I'm like, I will. I promise that I will.
Okay, well, and to kind of wrap this up, I know, like you just mentioned, that you guys have some Ron has shows at which you're going to be playing with, and I think some of those are sold out too, from what I saw.
They're pretty much all of them. So now we actually just had other bunch of tickets for the Philly one, and we had another one in New York, and it's going to be another one in Indianapolis that we just had, and Nashville. Nashville, there's some tickets at the door, but you cannot buy them anymore, like pre or like online. And I'm kind of scared because I'm not only playing with Ron, but I also play all my stuff. So that's a lot. That's a lot. Yeah.
So you're going to be opening the shows, and then when Ron comes on, you're in his band, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. So
Yeah. It's really beautiful as a thing because we are like I call it a switching band because Ron is playing bass for me and I play bass for him. So yeah, and the other two people they're playing with us, which is Dom Billet at drum and Jerry Bernhardt as the guitar, they stay in that position in both band. So yeah.
Okay, well, that's pretty cool. That you've got your two musicians that do both sets, and then you and Ron switch instruments between who's playing.
At the end of the set, I'm probably gonna be like, sleeping on the floor because I'm gonna be exhausted. I'm not used to it anymore. I'm not. This year of break it put me and Ron to go to sleep really early, wake up at 6 in the morning. It's like a different timeline, respect like what we were used to before. So tomorrow's gonna be a trial.
Well, I think once get to do that in front of an audience again, and all those feelings come back, and it's going to probably be a really wonderful experience, and it's going to be like, yes, this is like we were talking at the beginning of this. Now I have more hope. I feel better. This is what I love. This is what I've missed, and this is going to allow me to kind of feel like it was before February or March of 2020 happened. So
Exactly. It's also where we belong. So you're gonna feel it. I believe like we're gonna feel like that's where we belong. That's fine.
yeah, so it was awesome getting a chance to talk to you about your music and your background, and I really enjoyed this thoroughly. And I wish you all the fun and success with the shows coming up in front of. I'm thoroughly jealous that you're playing live music up here in Seattle. They're talking about rolling us back. We're going to actually find out the announcement in about 10 minutes here, is my understanding, if the governor's going to roll us back a phase. So we may not be seeing live.
There is so many cases going up.
Apparently, yeah. So Seattle's in King County, and then I'm in Snohomish County right above it. So that one, Seattle, and Tacoma was below it. Tacoma already rolled back like 3 weeks ago.
Wow.
And now they're talking about Seattle and where I live potentially rolling back, which would go into effect this Saturday. So yeah.
You didn't get your vaccine yet?
I actually did. I just had my second shot last Thursday. So I'm a weekend, a couple of days out from being fully cleared and vaccinated to feel better about things. So now we just need the rest of this area to follow suit.
Yeah, I don't know what people are thinking, but I was reading that there's so many people they're not taking the second dose. I'm like, if you already got the first one, what are you scared of the second for? Like, I'm not understanding.
That makes two of us. That's kind of like, it's not just doing it once is not enough.
No.
You got to commit to this thing all the way. So either do it or don't.
It might happen a third dose. So.
Yeah, and I don't even, because I've been reading the same thing too, where some people they got the first one and then just kind of got lazy or whatever and just didn't go back for their second one. And it's like, so how long do you have before that kind of elapses then? Meaning like your timeline's done where the first one's no longer effective.
Yeah, exactly. And then you have to do from
all over
zero
again.
all over again. Yeah, that makes no sense. And also, if we all do what we're supposed to do right now, it will be over it. It's like the smallpox. Nobody chose at the time, but all our parents did the smallpox vaccine. Is that what you're supposed to do?
Yeah, it's clearly, and for you, having been here during the past administration and now this current administration, and just kind of seeing from the outside and now on the inside how chaotic things have been. I can only stay in my lane and do what I can and try to support things that I support. I'm not somebody that likes to look down on the other side of things too much, and that was really hard sometimes last year because it got so divisive. But at the same time, we have to have conversations with people. As long as there's respect there, then that can happen.
That's the point. Like, you have to be able to talk and like respect other people's opinions, but it has to be also has to make sense. Like, sometimes people are like, just a couple of days ago, my neighbor comes over to me and was like, "Could you please take off your mask because you're making me really uncomfortable?" I'm like, "What? Am I making you uncomfortable?" And he said that he saw it on Fox News that some guy said that. And I was like, that explained to me a lot. I'm good with it. I was like, bye. So,
Yeah, no, that's a good example. I've not had that said to me, and I would just kind of be like, "What the fuck?"
No, I was really calm and like, I was like, I don't know how am I making you uncomfortable. I'm sorry, but like, I'm just gonna go on with my day, and like, you can go on with your day. That's all fine. And he is my neighbor, so I'm gonna see him a lot. And I just wanted to, trying to be nice with him. He is a pure negationist. Like, he doesn't believe in none. So, what do you want to do? Yeah.
Yeah, it takes all kinds, and just take those moments as they come.
Yeah, and also it's a good practicing for kindness. I'll say that. That's what I'm doing. I'm like, I'll practice a little bit to be kind with people that don't share my same opinion. That probably it works probably better than yelling. So
yeah, that's a really healthy point of view. I think that's a really good way to approach things. That you're being on the positive side, the glass half full type of viewpoint, instead of getting into the negativity and all the toxic kind of environment with things. It's like, I'm gonna take this road, and you do whatever you're gonna do, but this is the road I'm taking. So
yeah, I'm going that side. You go the other side, but no harm feelings.
Well, again, thank you so much for taking the time, and
Thank you for having me.
yeah, perhaps like maybe later in the not spring or maybe summer or something, we can kind of reconnect and kind of see where things are at, and how the shows went, and if we're getting closer to that timeline of knowing like when the album's actually going to be coming out in the fall, or what we're looking at.
It might be news. I might be news. I might be a non-something. Let's see where the works take us.
Okay, yeah, that sounds great. I love reconnecting with my guests and kind of keeping that open communication and timeline to do these interviews, and kind of seeing where they're at, and also getting your name out there too to help with promotion and shows and all that kind of thing. So I wish you every success again with the shows, and have a lot of fun with that, and hopefully we can talk sooner than later.
Yeah, thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Have a good afternoon over there.
Me.
Thank you for joining me. I appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Bye.